Hello, and welcome back to episode 2 of Werewub, a Universes podcast with myself, Ryan Levine, Mitchell Cimino, Calvin Harrigal, aka Wub, and Travis Tangeman. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent Ban and Errata update list that went into effect last week, how that has kind of shifted our perspective on the upcoming Albuquerque regional, and then I think we're going to talk a bit about AOT 3. Maybe a couple other things sprinkled in, but yeah, so who has very strong opinions on the ban list they'd like to get out of the way first and foremost? I guess first,
So,
for what the
so
ban list was, for those of you somehow that don't know, I guess, but are clicking this, that was the errata to Devilgen and the banning of vertical maneuvering equipment. But
so yeah, to be the Chris Pratt in the Jurassic World and hold the hands out for the Raptors really quick. Uh, they did a lot of good things, and by that I mean, yes, Devilgen should have been addressed. Yes, VME should have been addressed. However, I think that VME probably should have been addressed after certain other things or in conjunction with certain other things. So those other things being,
Um,
Uh,
we absolutely should have hit Nick Reagan on top of the other things that we touched. VME was like a floodgate, keeping the degenerate aggro decks from just steamrolling people playing mid range and control. And the fact that we hit that tool but did not remove, not only did not remove anything from Nick's arsenal at all, we didn't touch any of the cards in his deck. We didn't touch the character himself, which there are approximately an infinite number of ideas and like possible errata decisions that could be made in regards to that character to make him okay. And even to some of the cards in his deck, like I know we were floating the idea of we could just errata true 100% to first enhance so he specifically can't bing bong people off the top 8, right?
yeah, Wub
Yeah.
said that literally before we were recording.
yeah, I think that'd be nice. But yeah, like regarding VME, the number of times that I've made a deck that I think is funny or cool, and my kill condition is like 4 or 5 speed in like an off zone or something, and my opponent just not even like as their primary defense, they just happen to build a VME, and I look at it and I'm just like, my trick to kill you just doesn't function the entire time you have momentum. So I'm just sitting here. I'm either taking all your momentum, which not every symbol has access to, or I'm like hoping you spend it and just decide to throw the game away. Like
Yeah, just
it's
like
just a very
you.
bad feeling. So obviously like glad that that's been dealt with, but like you guys are saying, like um there's offense that I think VMU was kind of checking that now is just going to run rampant and force people onto like very, very defensive things where the threat is like you play these defensive decks to each other and draw. Like that's kind of what I'm afraid of going to Albuquerque. But hey, at least they changed something, right? Like at least it wasn't no changes.
Right.
So
yeah, I think my
Yeah,
thoughts on
the
VME are like definitely the card as it was too powerful. Um, but now that it's gone, I think a lot of strategies that just kind of try to high roll are going to be maybe too consistent and will just kill you. And I was hoping maybe if this decision was made a little bit earlier, we could have had a card in AOT 3 that was like a pseudo replacement for VME that was less powerful. But now I'm hoping like in the next sets this year, we will get a card with a similar functionality to VME that is weaker. So the decks that so defensive decks can have like a tool that can, I mean, maybe like changing attack zones. Like I think 3 speed was too much to put on that effect, right? I
yeah,
also
for sure.
think adding 3 speed arguably might have been too much to put on that effect. I think when VME was used primarily for defense, it was probably a little bit more manageable, but I don't know. I'm hoping we get something VME shaped that is less powerful. So
Yeah.
decks that need or really want the defensive utility of a card like that can still do it, but obviously
Yeah,
like VME just did too much, I think. All in one
yeah,
card. It just did too much.
I agree. I think regardless of like how you feel about attuned stuff in general, they like we are trending towards like quote unquote staples in the game again, where like there are infinity symbol resets that everyone can play in AOT 3. There are infinity symbol like action answers to specific things. So like if we had another, like infinity attuned thing that was similar to VME, like a momentum out, like you were saying, I'm sure it's coming, right? Because we are already trending towards that direction.
Yeah.
These cards are already designed. But like I feel timing wise, especially because it just kind of creates like we made the comparison before we started rolling. It kind of creates this lame duck format for like Albuquerque specifically, where it's like, well, there's just a guy that is format warping, and you're either playing him or something that can quote unquote beat him by being like a turbo or turbo turtle deck. Probably should have picked a different set of adjectives.
Yeah.
And yeah, that leads us into TMT reveals. No, but like it just feels weird, right? And like it was more of an issue come Nats because it was 4 more, but like now it kind of just leads to Albuquerque being people are showing up, and I don't really know if that many people care.
Yeah. It's also kind of feels bad doubly because you'll be like dying to Nick Reagan or something in Swiss and just thinking about like the infinity reset you would have been running if
Oh, for sure.
things were shifted one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moment of normalcy
Like,
is, I think, gonna do a lot for, and that is something that is like unfortunate. Yeah, that like it's worse that it's like we see the defensive tools that we would have had access to, and like yes, as Nick sends a true 100 that removes a true 100 off the top, and it's a 19 mid 30, and you just look to your right with people playing AOT 3 spotlight or AOT spotlight with their moment of normalcies in their deck, and you're just like you're just like have your
you're just watching from inside the house,
literally and you're just like, oh man, like
yeah, dang it.
But I do understand
Yeah.
why the decision was made to not make
Yeah,
AOT3 legal. It is just like it's weird that it's like I get why it's not legal, but when I also look at the set and think about how some of the most impactful cards are like rare and below, it just makes me sad. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident anyone would have liked Moment of Normalcy in their deck, but
Yes.
alas.
I mean, hey, we got the moment of normalcy in the shop today, right?
Oh,
like
that
imagine
was
a world that
that
they
was really
just
cool.
brought those to Albuquerque,
Yeah.
and just handed out infinity resets the
Yeah.
Friday before.
Hey everyone,
dude.
hey everyone, we didn't
Oh
hit
my
Nick.
God.
Everybody have Moment of Normalcy in your deck. Yeah, and they just made it legal, and they're just like, here you go, everyone, have one.
Yeah,
Everyone.
That would be
that's just a thought.
incredible.
Yeah.
God. It's just like the thing that frustrates me the most about the VME hit is the fact that like seeing moment of normalcy and knowing that like we're not going to have access to that, and now there's just like a void for defensive options, because truth be told, VME was not, you were not putting that card in aggro decks.
Yeah,
you
you
were
weren't,
putting
yeah.
that card in the defensive decks that are just trying to live, and the defensive decks have not had a card as powerful as the aggressive cards that we've been seeing for a very long time. So for them to just
Right.
kind of axe the only one that we had and still leave the aggressive characters as they are is just like, yeah, man, cool.
Which I think
Yeah.
like the big thing for me about VME is like a lot of decks that I've been trying to make recently, the block zones have just been super imbalanced just because after rotation of sets 2 and 3, and rotation of set 1 previously, and now rotation of My Hero sets 2 and 3, so many of like the pretty good cards that like made the cut in your deck because they were the block zone you need are gone. And now if I'm like, well, my deck really doesn't have enough low blocks, and I go to whatever symbol I'm on, I sort like low block, and I just go like, God, every single card is a 3 low that doesn't do anything, and I'm just like, I just can't put this card in my deck. And then VME is what lets you get away with that, because some of these characters are throwing, like the Godzillas of the world, or some of these other characters that just have insane damage pump on their effects are just like 4 low for 12, and you're like, well, half blocking this is not really like a palatable solution. I kind of need to full block this, but
Right.
I'm hoping that AOT3 is a whole new set of cards, a whole new set of cards to help us fix block zones if we need them, yada yada. But I have been really hurting for correct block zones recently, and VME is the
Yeah.
only thing that made that feel manageable on the defensive decks. But
Travis knows this. The first AOT 3 deck I tried to make, I think I looked and there were 60 mid blocks, and I just instantly deleted it.
Threw it away.
I was like, this is beyond saving. Like,
It's so,
we can't
gross.
help you. Yeah, that leads into kind of like the prep for Albuquerque. Realistically, was like everyone remembers where they were when VME was banned. Where like we just everything single group chat, just like 18 messages, like what are we doing for Albuquerque now? Like what's going on? Like I'm sitting there and I get messages and everyone's like, I think I'm fine. I think I'm not fine. I have to fix my deck. I have to figure out what I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm just playing this.
Dude, it's like the fucking SpongeBob brain on fire and everyone's just running around with the fucking burning
blocking.
paper.
We forgot how to block.
Yeah. Literally forgot how to block. Yes. Like
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, it's prep for Albuquerque for the most part, because like I either foolishly or because I am a genius cut VME from the Deku deck that I had been having fun with before it got hit even, which led to a very interesting conversation with Ryan where he was like, "You are a fool," and I went, "I am a prophet." But
That you were.
so like literally neither of the two decks I was considering playing for Albuquerque suffered at all from the ban list, and in fact one of them got better. So I was just sitting there like, all right, what are we doing for testing for Albuquerque? And Wub was like, I think I have this really cool idea or concept. I just need to see if it can like even have a chance into. And then I cracked my knuckles before the sentence finished and put Nick, Pony, and Ymir on the table and went, all right, here's the bar. And we did that for about 3 days with different people. And it would get to the point where it'd be like, okay, well, your deck can survive against Nick in game 1. That's passable. Go from there. And then I would go, all right, now I need reps with, and then I would look around and I'd be like, well, we've been playing for like 3 hours and we've finally found a breakthrough for something else. So I guess this is fine.
Yeah, I my thoughts on where the format is now probably. And again, like it's so weird to analyze this in any capacity because it matters for literally one day.
It matters for 90 people in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, it matters for 90 people on Saturday, and then it matters for 8 people on Sunday. Because even then, because even then, like, if any of us don't top, I'm sure on Sunday we're just going to be in the corner proxying AOT 3 decks and like trying to figure out what we want to play next. Because like this format's over, you know? Because like we will go to the vendors and buy a box of AOT 3. Like I don't know, like might as well, So it is weird, and it's like I think the space that the Nick deck occupies right now, in my opinion, is extremely similar to the space that Bertolt 2 occupied in our Nats format. And that format kind of gave rise to Mimic. And if we kind of like chart how that worked, we saw everybody was doom posting about Bert correctly for months, and there were just no events. And there was this huge buildup where, okay, after 2 months of doom posting, people figured out decks to beat Bertolt. However, they were very specific decks that had to be designed literally to beat that deck. Because if you don't play cards in your deck to beat Bertolt 2, you literally can't win. And I feel the Nick deck is kind of the same, where like that deck is not unbeatable. Like it does not have a 100% win rate against every single deck ever. But if you don't put cards in your deck to beat that deck, if you don't put resets in your deck, if you don't put these counter cards in your deck to this deck, you cannot win. It's not even like it's really hard to win. It's like if you don't have cards in your deck designed for this deck, you literally can't win. So now we have a really over-centralized metagame, where something people figured out, I guess I'll use figured out generously, but I do think it ended up working out. Whereas Devil Jin, I'm not going to call Devil Jin a hard counter to Nick, but obviously Aerial Goblin Bolt, repeatable, is a good counterplay to Nick. So Devil Jin started getting more and more popular because putting in Aerial Goblin Bolt was a like searchable answer to Nick, right? Like this was the one deck that wasn't on did you draw the out to Nick. It was like every Goblin Bolt you milled or checked was an extra instance of canceling Nick's button that just bashes your skull in. So
Yes.
you got to not like play defensively, but it was an aggressive deck that had defensive tools against the Nick deck specifically. Against a bunch of other decks that were pressing a bunch of other different buttons, Goblin Bolt wasn't as crucial. But against Nick, that's his button on face enhance is 4 sentences long. I'm gonna cancel that. Like I'm gonna cancel.
Sure.
I'm gonna cancel 4 lines of text on one ability. So now that we've lost that, Deviljin, I feel like Deviljin is still a pretty competent aggro deck. Like we were messing around with it on some other symbols post errata and having some fun with his tools on evil. With like Blackout is a really cool card from the Jin like Clash starter deck that's just +1 damage for every attack in your card pool. And then there's also a Foundation in the Jin starter deck that's like it's exam strategy but only for damage, but it's a 1 diff. So we would just get in these situations where it's like, okay, Deviljin +7 damage for 7 in my card pool. Blackout +7 damage. Okay, crack my Foundation +7 damage. 3 low for 25. VME's banned. Please don't block this. That was like, please. And that was, that was fun. But like, I just feel
fun while you thought Feather Control picked up team.
And then for a little while I guess I'll say generously.
That was Ryan's prep.
I thought I could pick up teaming with Feather Control, and then by the time that it was explained that you couldn't do that, I was like, well, I've already died before resolving the combo 3 times. Like I never even resolved it because the Nick deck just kept killing me before I could even set it up. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. But whatever.
The duality.
Literally.
Acceptable outcome.
Yeah. So I just feel like it's gonna be really over centralized to beat Nick. And I guess like I have thoughts on what that will mean, but you have stuff you want to say first, so go for it.
No, it is literally just like the only difference for me, like it's a very apt comparison to the Nats meta, but like as the person in the room playing the one Burt deck that made it with like the Nats meta, the Burt deck that made it was just playing a different style of Burt, like not trying to flip. There's not a different style of Nick Reagan. Like the difference in your Nick Reagan deck versus someone else's Nick Reagan deck is the amount of cards you choose to put in it, not what cards, right? Like everyone agrees there are probably like 80 total cards that just
you could put 12 2-checks in your deck if you want to do the crash out version, but
sure. But
like
that it's strange to say that like your deck, your Nick deck versus someone else's Nick deck could be 80 cards similar and still be 30 cards different. That's a fun thing to say out loud, but like it is still just mostly the same DNA. You're worried about the same things sitting opposite him. You are trying to find the same things playing him. It's like not necessarily solved. It's just like you are playing at the very minimum these good ones. It's a matter of like how you play it. And with the Burt deck, it was different insofar as like you're not playing the same type of character. Your opponent is not worried about you doing the same things. By the time they realize you are not trying to flip, you are 3 attacks into your string. Versus with Nick, you are 3 attacks into your string. Your opponent knows exactly what's happening. You know exactly what's happening.
And your opponent is Yamcha posed in a crater on the ground already. Like
yes,
it doesn't matter.
It does not matter. Yeah. By the time your opponent goes, okay, thank God my Nick opponent only built 3 on turn 1, and I have a 5 build. You have already thrown Besiege and Big Fist Bash to pick it back up, and they're like, oh, it could just be over now.
Yep. They might need a second build turn.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess like that's enough Doom posting probably about a format that 90 people care about.
Well, I do want to talk about the decks that I think there's one thing I want to talk about when I'm talking about an over centralized metagame. There's one symbol in particular that I want to talk about, which I think will be like my prediction is Void will be the most represented symbol in Top Cut, unless it's just Nick Reagan. Like I think it will. In my opinion, the decks that will do best are going to be the Nick Reagan decks and the Void symbol. I do think that will be the meta for Albuquerque, in my opinion. I'm sure there will be some exceptions if it's a smaller tournament and it's only a cut to top 8, then like I don't know. That's not a very large sample size, so it could be literally anything. But I feel like if we
Right.
do hit the threshold for top 16, I think like a fourth or more of top cut will be void, or like that's
Sure.
how I feel. Which I guess like I
Yeah,
think
like
it just has it is the symbol that I think has the tools to deal with literally everything. And it's the only symbol that I think has that roll compression right now. With some exceptions of like if you are like order with really specific attuned symbol access, then it's probably in a similar boat. But I think
mhm.
Void is the one that I think has like the most counterplay to like all these things, which like Sweeping Daggers is a super super good card. Obviously, like I think that's probably one of the best attacks in the game right now. That card is super
Yeah.
good. It also has access to Goblin Bolt if you want that. Not every Void deck that I've built plays that card, but a bunch of them do, and that's card's obviously extremely good against Nick, as we said. Like blocking with a 1 mid and then having Goblin Bolt to cancel their next one is super great. It has access to elasticity, which I think is less important now than it was pre VME hit, because the Mitchell Cimino deck won't be as popular, but elasticity is super super good against that deck, and Patrick maybe is still played in a lot of the Nick Reagan decks, and elasticity is good against that. It's good against Attack Titan's Haymaker, another card commonly played in the Nick Reagan decks. Just canceling the stun 2 or above abilities and getting a momentum out of it.
Yeah.
Barrier Shield, crazy, crazy, crazy card. Obviously, I think that is the number
Yes.
one tool against the Nick Reagan decks. Is that is a from hand speed reset plus plus break. Like that card is literally, if you can just have enough card advantage, it kind of does everything. And
Yes.
Sweeping
Yeah.
Daggers also taking their true 100. Taking true
Right.
100 with Sweeping Daggers is an insane swing.
Yeah, by virtue of like your Nick deck is playing the most impactful enhances to peel off of cards and staple to other ones, your opponent's Sweeping Daggers will be the best card ever of all time at
Yes,
every point in the
that's
game.
yeah. So
Uh,
Void, I feel like just has the best counterplay to everything the Nick Reagan deck is trying to do, and then in addition to that, it just has like good cards. It has incubating, it
right.
has Botan's coaching, it has violent animus shot as well. Like it just has the good ones. So
Yes.
that is my pick for what I think is like, other than the Nick Reagan deck, I think the Void symbol, and like sure, whether like probably like I mean Void Rodan won the last regional, or the last NA regional. It's not a hot take to be like Void is good, but I
Yeah,
just
right.
think it has everything it needs to be successful right now that I think a lot of other symbols don't.
I would agree. Yeah.
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 I mean, yeah, it's sort of also a casualty of the VME ban where, you still have access to things like Barrier Shield that
Mhm.
are just massive speed hate, Rodan the character in general.
Mhm.
And incubating, I think, is a huge one. That is
Yeah.
such an important
It's
card when VME is gone and you need all the speed hate that you can get.
repeatable effects
Incubating
are
being
so
a
massive. Yeah.
repeatable speed hate is super important.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. It makes total sense. But
And Hacker
um
Extraordinaire, which is less important
Yes.
now
Yeah.
that the VME is banned. That card is less important for sure, but definitely still a good
Yes.
card. Definitely still a good card.
Yeah. Next set they'll print Hacker, but for backups.
Oh
Oh
my
yeah, actually,
God.
I wouldn't mind.
Backup
4
Extraordinaire.
more years. Oh god.
Backup extraordinaire.
That's a freebie. There you go, guys.
Hacker is a
GG
card that is
easy.
like, I love having it on the table, but I am so frustrated by its existence in the
Oh, for
format.
sure. Yeah.
Yes,
That's like
absolutely.
yeah, I think hacker type effects are like not necessarily specifically like target flip thing, but like effects that are just generically good that should exist on something in the format is like another fun topic that we didn't pre-plan that we could talk about later, but like I mean insofar as stuff like evade and copy. Like we don't have an evade and copy in the format right now really. So like
Yeah.
I would be interested moving forward in getting something similar or like just another effect that like this should probably exist somewhere. Like we have that I guess moving forward and like a good segue with like AOT 3 we have like the universal reset that everyone can play and like the universal effect veiler action.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like that's another like fun topic for later, but uh I think I'm the only one in the call that did a sealed event this weekend for a
Yeah,
pre-release?
I was unable
Yeah.
to attend one, unfortunately. I've gone to
Yeah.
a bunch of the Seal events in my locals, but I was busy
Yeah.
this weekend,
Ryan was breaking up a
unfortunately.
fist fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I was the assistant. I was the assistant head judge at a Yu-Gi-Oh regional, and there was a fist fight round 6. So
Yeah,
that
That's
was
Ryan Brayler's
so
ep-
fun.
Ryan Brayler's
we were
definitely
dealing with that was
Sponzo.
not on my
Yeah.
bingo card, but you know it was okay. But yeah, that was most of my Saturday, and then
Yeah.
what else?
I
And then my local is having another one. Like they're doing I guess the inverse of a midnight release. They're doing a final pre-release that ends at midnight. So like it's like Thursday night they're doing a final pre-release and then the set is available to purchase at midnight. But I will be on a
I
plane to
see.
Albuquerque.
Yeah,
So I
they're
can't go to
having
that either, unfortunately, as much as I would like to. So
yeah, they're having a secret drinking party the night before Prohibition ends.
yeah,
I get it.
literally, yeah. Pretty much, I guess. I guess that
Yeah.
is yeah.
But yeah, I guess like small tidbit for sealed in AOT 3 specifically. For you gamers that are trying to do that, draft Armin because your deck can just be whatever you want because you can build everything in your hand even if they're bad when you draw them.
Oh, that's fine.
That makes
I
sense.
forgot that character unflips things when he makes contact because all of the cards in my staging area were shit because it was sealed anyway. So I just kept using it for flip +2. And then when I would win the die roll in the arm and mirror in sealed, I would flip first, pop their foundation, they'd be at 7, that they would not flip, and then they would die. So just do that.
I love that. That's so
Nice.
cool. That sounds
Yeah.
very
That's
interesting.
been your tips for pre-release.
Mhm.
But I guess that being said, like we had talked about earlier doing like I guess our homework was to think of cool stuff about AOT3 and try not to overlap each other. So I'm going to talk first because I didn't do that, so no one can take my thing.
Okay.
I think watching Ryan realize in real time like 2 weeks ago when we were going over characters that like, oh, the point of Armin is to like build the outwit cards and like unflip things that are like built face down when you make contact, yada yada. I think talking with some of the people at the newer player locals that I have in Michigan, one of them is really, really into Armin, and they're like, "Oh, is there like cool stuff you can do?" And I'm like, "You can build spaceship face down and then unflip it, and then you're a 7-hander forever." And they're like, "That's so cool." And just the space of like unflipping your resources and just like being able to quote unquote fix your brick hands by just putting blanks in your stage with Armin, even if it's like you can never have like that bad of a beat as far as a build goes in Armin as long as your deck's not too poorly constructed because you can just like build whatever, right? So like I think that's going to be neat to see. Also, he's just like huge as far as health goes for a 6-hander. Um, so there's just like a lot going on with that specifically. I don't have a deck list made yet, but he has one of my favorite symbols, so I will definitely be doing that.
Is he your first guy that you're gonna try and build?
It's gonna be probably him, and then I'm not gonna build Falco the character, but I am gonna use a lot of Falco's cards for Ochako 4. Um,
I look
but yeah,
forward to you not checking your tasty earths after
Yeah.
Albuquerque and drawing all
yeah,
them.
of course.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
I
Yeah.
I really like Armin, the new Armin, because I think he like this is a realization I came to maybe last night when building some decks is that I think Fire Attuned is currently the perfect pair with Order main symbol. I love the Order symbol. It's my favorite symbol for over a year, and I've entered every event last season on the Order symbol. And the biggest flaw it has right now, in my opinion, is it has quite literally 0 playable 1-diff foundations. And the only ones that are even somewhat playable, all check 4s. The only ones I would want to put in my deck for literally any reason, just check 4. So that sucks. Fire has 2 incredible generic 1-diff foundations. It has Capture the Target and it has Radiant Visage, which are just great, throw in your deck, they will never be bad cards. So Fire being an attuned symbol for Order is just so good right now. Chaos is good too. It has Horrifying Realization and Inspiring Song. Those are both really solid as well. But I think Fire is one that I've really had a good time with when trying to play with Order, because Fire also gives you access to Besiege and Attack Titan's Haymaker, which I do think that's like Attack Titan's Haymaker is a really good like mid-rangey attack that I think the Order symbol really likes. So I do like that he is specifically fire attuned on Order. I think that works out pretty well for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like realistically speaking, when you look at all of the like Order attuned spam, it is just like it does prove your point, because I was like trying to be an actually motherfucker and look at the like Order spam and be like, well, if you play Order attuned, you get, and then I'm looking and it's like
Nothing.
you get don't do this. I was like,
Hey,
that
that is a good
that is
one.
a card.
Sure.
That is a card I would confidently put in your deck that is an Order symbol 1 diff, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So like,
but even then, you can't put that in every deck. Like that's,
correct. Yeah, I was
you
gonna say
know,
I wouldn't.
so-
I would not play that in Armin because you don't
Yeah.
like print enough hand size.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's not sustainable in some decks for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, you do get to in Armin as well. Like obviously Herder, it's the fucking cards with his face on them, but you get to play like Signal Shot and stuff like that, and for profit and like.
Oh,
Make that
I've
card
come around on
actually-
that card. I hated that card so much, but after playing that card more,
Yeah.
oh, I love Signal Shot.
So like Armin
love
is
jab.
the first
Yeah.
character in a while that
Yeah.
like actually makes Signal Shot feel like Hardened Jab, kind of. Like every time that comparison has been drawn prior, I go, nah, you are smoking. And then I like think about it in Armin and I'm like, okay, maybe in him specifically, it's kind of gas.
I just think that
But-
3 mid isn't what it used to be. Is
Yeah,
a
it's-
part of
oh,
the, a
yeah.
big
The
Yeah.
part of
VME's,
the reason why it
VME's
doesn't-
banned. 3
Well,
mid
that-
might as well
yeah,
be
3
6
mid-
mid now.
Oh.
3 mid's illegal
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ooh,
3 mids,
yeah.
yeah. Signal Shot is no longer a 0 low or
Yeah,
whatever.
Signal Shot is no longer 0 low, response on block, commit your 2 best foundations.
Yeah. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. What about you, Wub? What are you excited about character wise and like deck composition wise from AOT 3?
Okay. We can at some point, I don't know how our time will be later, but like we can get into how we feel about the set as a whole. I'm generally kind of unsure how to feel at this point. However, the highest compliment I can give this set is they have made me want to play backups. And that is something
that is
I
astounding.
never thought I would have
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
Like there
me
are
either.
so many cool backup synergies and things that just feel like Zeke is just when you like think about the front side of Zeke Yeager, he turns your backups into 1 to your check on both sides. Like he makes your backups effectively into trigger. And that is like that's a crazy thing to like process and think about. And there's just like there's the ultra rare backup that like just gives any deck damage that needs it. Some of these cards, again, some of them might just be way too crazy, like we'll see. But there's like backup scaling for speed and damage, depending on what you want to do. Like I'm a huge fan of like those XX scaling type effects. There's just like a lot of stuff with the purple cards that is really cool. And obviously like the ally backups are all very pushed, right? Like all the 2
Yeah.
diff ones,
Oh,
Yellow,
yeah.
Mellow, Willy, like all of those. So I think that in general is kind of like what I'm most interested in, but probably Zeke specifically because I think his gameplay loop is really neat when he's not Unga Bunga flipping and +2 check, put 10 cards in the card pool. When he's
Right,
instead going
exactly.
like small poke +8 to my check, giant poke pass. Like I think that's really cool. And then like,
Yeah.
you know, minus however much speed because of your check gets +6 or whatever on their turn. So
On top of that, with like timing of like coming out right after Heroes of Exandria, you get Hunter's Ally, and like you said, all of the pushed like ally backups, like you just
Yeah.
have a lot of space to work with. Like it's very
Duplistis
cool.
is building all these too. Rock Barrage went from feeling like it did nothing because they printed 18 unique backups to building the ultra rare backups, so suddenly it's crazy again. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's like a whole lot there to unpack, and
All
I
I'm
think it'll
saying
be
is
really
buy
cool
your
to watch
violent
it.
animus shots now.
Yeah,
Violent
yeah,
animus
yeah,
shot
yeah.
stocks
Yeah.
are up.
They certainly are, but at the same time, like some of these characters, like I don't know if dealing with 2 of their backups, drawing a card and removing one is going to like when Zeke gets going, like holy cow.
Yeah, when
man.
he has 11
There's
backups, getting rid of 2
Yeah.
does not matter. I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yes, like
Yeah.
you don't you need
There's
a
a
lot
critical mass,
more. you
Yeah.
need a lot
Yeah.
more guns.
Especially
fair,
because
the,
he's running the Jaeger's Fall or whatever. It's
Yes,
just, like,
yeah,
8
I
of
was
them in
just about
play.
to
Like,
say, the Jaeger's
oh no, 2 of them
followers
are dead.
actually crazy.
Yeah.
When you get
There's
the
a
6
Dupler
of
one
them,
too.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you get to 6 of them and all of them are suddenly -3 speed and you just have 6 -3 speeds in your stage, it's like,
Just like
how do
that.
I
Welcome
kill
back,
anyone?
VME.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Everywhere I go, I see
I
his
see-
face. It's just-
Yeah. They also like sidebar. They kind of cooked with a lot of these alt arts.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
The
Oh, the
alt
character
arts
alt arts are
is
are,
another-
are
Yes.
great.
The
They're
Zeke,
they're
the
great.
Zeke alt art is crazy, like
Yep.
insane. The Annie alt art's also very funny to look at because it's just the stupid Annie.
That one is
body
hilarious.
poses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spencer bought my Annie alt art off of me, and I was like, almost wish I pulled 2 of this.
It's very funny to look at.
All right. Have we talked
But
about
just-
the most important card in AOT 3? Crawl to the wall.
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
god.
The-
I actually
and
have
the
I actually read an
malicious-
essay on
the
this
malicious
card.
the
Unir-
malicious
unironically.
compliance 0 diff.
Yeah, it is like I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do think it's crazy that it's like the two like factions of just like zero diff shouldn't exist in the game and like zero diffs are a necessity, and then they're like, fine, 0-4 check infinity
Yeah.
symbol. Like
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's literally like I had this conversation at the pre-release too, where it's like it doesn't matter what you really think about the zero diffs. It kind of also levels out going second, because if your opponent goes first and they try a 4 build, if we live in a world where zeros don't exist, right?
mhm.
And your last card that you play is a 1 diff on a 4, which is like the best you could get, and they check the 4 and they go, cool, I got a 4 build, and you're going second, and you also play those in the same order, and you play your 1 diff on a 4 and you check a 3, you go, well, I'm already going second, and now I have to commit my character if I want the same number of cards built as my opponent. This sucks.
I mean, I think either way, like, there is a disconnect in what happens, whether it's you go first and instead of the universe where we check the 4 diff, we fail it on a 3, and then our opponent going second decides, all right, well, I'm going to go 2 diff, 2 diff, 1 diff, 1 diff, 1 diff, and they pass all of them. You're now down 2 foundations, and it feels like you just lost the game because you're
100%,
losing
yeah.
tempo.
Yeah.
So, like, either way, it's not a place you want to be. I think zeros are definitely necessary for the health of the game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't love the like, I guess the like old head take of like pulling the ladder up. It's like, yeah, zeros used to blah blah blah, or like you shouldn't need to build zero diffs. It's like, man, they just feel good to play. Like let them print cards that are fun to play that like make your decks better. It's
They
fine.
Yeah, so like they feel good to play, and then also they just reduce so the variance between running zeros versus not, and like being massively behind because you failed 2 cards earlier than your opponent did is not the kind of variance that I want to dictate games universes. Like
Right.
the check system works to an extent when you can use it as like calculated risk, but when you're forced to, like when you get to these points where it's like, all right, well, now I just have to go on a 5 because I don't have zeros in my deck, so I can't go on a 3 and a 4 or whatever. Like, it just creates these like big gaps that decide games really early when I would rather everyone gets a chance to play the game. And
Right.
in that vein, same kind of reason why I don't like people dying on turn 2. Obviously, like someone doesn't get to play the game, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's a huge swing when like person going first is like 2 diff is like 2-2-1-2-1, and then they check 5s on the ones that matter, and then you're going second and you look at your hand and you're like, I guess I also have to do that, and then go 2-2-1-2 and check a 3. Game is over. Like a lot of the time, game is over. And
The classic save
like
state on TTS.
that's an
Lion
oversimplification.
explodes.
Obviously, everyone has won games in that situation, but I think your win rate just evaporate. Like your win percentage goes down so tremendously when something like that happens, right? Like when you go second and you build less than your opponent to that degree, and it was uncontrollable. It's just
literally out of their
like
hands.
And I've heard people tell me like, oh, well, you just haven't played from a foundation deficit before or something. It's like, well, like I think all of us have.
Yeah,
That,
I was gonna say, like, what does that mean?
But then also, a lot of the times that story relies on a crux, which is like, I had this crazy defensive piece in my hand,
Yeah.
or something.
The
like,
last 2 cards were
just not as
barrier
simple.
shield, break,
Yeah,
pile
like,
seizing.
Sure, I guess.
Like, okay.
That's
Or-
fine.
Yeah.
Or like even worse, the crux of those stories could also just be, oh, I got unlucky during this point in the game, but my opponent got even more unlucky during this other more
Yeah.
relevant part of the game. And it's just like, all right, well, I guess that's a way to get out from a foundation deficit where realistically I should be losing the game anyways.
Yeah. In your
Yeah,
opponent's 5 build, they go like attack Titan's Haymaker, check a 3, and then play another attack
Almost
and check a 3, and then they
check a
commit
3,
5
and then they just full
foundations,
committed.
playing 2 cards. You're like, all right, like that doesn't happen
Yeah.
usually, but I guess it can. You know?
Yeah. I think
And
we've
then
done
you do the
enough
same
trashing
thing and
with
you
people who
fail
dislike
because you
zero
went on
diffs,
3
but
foundations.
you know,
No,
like
yeah. Any back to hey Travis, what
No.
are you looking forward to?
I do.
From
I will
this?
say. I will
Yeah.
say. I do agree that some zeros are too good, but I think we
No,
need
yeah.
something. I think
We-
I would like something better than
particularly-
crawl to the wall. I guess.
Dude, I
I'll
want
say.
zero diffs to be class membership, but with a 1 better block mod. I would be happy if my card was like, maybe this is usable and on my stage, and this is a card I would consider blocking with, not under duress. That's what I want. Like the drawback of you building your zero diff could and should be, I lose out on a reasonable block mod in my hand to guarantee a 4 build. Like that's a
Yeah, like,
fine trade-off.
we're not asking for release here, right?
I think
No, I
your
don't
finish
want-
Yes.
is my
No,
I don't
favorite.
want
yes.
it can't be
zero.
fixed back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
your
think-
your finish, perfect example of a good zero. That's what
yeah.
a zero should be.
I think it is my favorite. It is my favorite zero currently in the game. It is a small one-time use effect that either requires luck or setup, like you spend momentum or whatever, to do it, or you combo it with relaxed demeanor or some discard effect or whatever, or a deadlock effect. So your zero diff is not useless in the late game. You either spend the resource early game for tempo, or it's a late game resource. And I think that's my favorite, the best design to zero in my opinion that is like currently legal. Master's Pride is very similar, and it makes sense that these cards have the same design philosophy because they were the All Might versus One for All deck. Like, so they both have early game abilities you can spend for tempo or deadlock abilities that are relevant. And I think those are like the best ones, in my opinion.
There's so many gates you could put to these cards too. Like we just did cycle lock attacks that activate after you've cycled. You could just put that on a zero, right? Like it'll be blank for a good part of the game, and then you get later, and suddenly your stage starts to have text. That's cool. I don't know. There's a lot of design options, I feel like.
Yeah. So I am looking forward personally to all of the disgusting things that you can do in this set. So as someone who plays this game and is always, I'm looking to break it in two. Like that is my motto for this game, is whenever a set releases, I'm looking to snap the game in half. The amount of things that I can do that make my opponent not want to play. I'm looking forward to that. Unyielding Destruction, the Effect Veiler action is going to be not fun to play against.
We should explain what Effect Veiler is for people who have not played Yu-Gi-Oh!
Correct. Yeah. So for people that have not played Yu-Gi-Oh! For all of our just UVS watchers, Effect Veiler was just discard from your hand, negate your monster's effects, or target one of your monsters, negate it during the main phase, whatever.
So we're referring to Filled with Doubt, which is respawn.
Yes.
Skill, and
It's
attack
quite literally one-to-one is Effect Veiler. Like it's like actually,
Correct. That card's not going to be fun to play against. The other thing that I'm also looking very much forward to is playing any Death Attune deck with Greater Goal that is just reflipping military tactics.
Yeah, that card is
over and over and over and over again, and like finding a way to ready that so I can keep doing it and just saying once you touch your third attack played this turn, you are not playing anymore.
Yeah.
You will stop.
Yeah, there's definitely it feels like there's going to be a bit of a paradigm shift with this set because the defensive tools and the offensive tools are both scaling really, really high all of a sudden in certain aspects. Like certain symbols get chosen over others. There's all the infinity stuff, but like something like military tactics is just so it's so outside the realm of what I think we're kind of used to doing. Like the ability to bounce on every, and it's not like you're losing a resource or anything. You're just committing one. Trying to think of there was probably like the plus difficulty as well, right? Like
The one that's
the
the
Gabby
prize card,
Foundation.
right, for this event.
Yeah.
It's the top cut one.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it's
like
called. I'll
that.
find it.
Playing into Travis a couple times, like he had two of
Frantic
those in his
Rescue.
stage, and I was just kind of like, huh, I can't really like. This feels like Keiko's it, but he doesn't have to do anything. Like,
Yep.
he just has to sit there and take a hit. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how all this shakes out, right?
Yeah.
I think the character that I'm most looking forward to is, without a doubt, Peak, which is funny because the first time I read this character, I was like, I really like Irwin 1. It's the deck that I've probably played at locals, like when I'm not just playing like this is the deck I'm playing for the event next week. Like the deck that I've just played at locals the most has probably just been Irwin, since he came out. I just really like the way he plays with like sacrificing his foundations and building new ones, whatever. And I read this, and Peak is on the same symbols as Irwin and has a very, very similar like gameplay loop. And I just went, this seems worse than Irwin because she's a 6-hander and not a 7-hander. So like the resources you have seem less. And then as more and more cards got revealed and we talked more and more about how this card works, I think this is like the united front character, ironically. Not somehow it's not Reiner. Somehow I think it is Peak. Because Peak gets to tutor an asset from your deck as many times as you want, essentially. Like if your opponent has some form of asset hate, you can just get another one when you transform back. And there are many tools on the death symbol, and by many tools I mean like 2, I guess. There's Duplicitous, and then if you want to, you can play Warhammer Titan Attacks, which will transform into your backup immediately to get your backup online, right? You have Duplicitous, Recollection, Warhammer Titan Attacks. I'm sure there's another one I'm forgetting that just instantly makes a backup that you can play on this symbol. Like Questboard is on Infinity. Does that also do that, or am I making up what that card does?
Questboard builds a party backup. I believe.
Yeah,
Sure,
builds one of the
okay.
party backups.
Sure. So you have a lot of options to get United Front online as quickly as possible. United Front, the card that we revealed in the last episode, Teehee, where you get to look at your top 3 and get one and rearrange them, whatever, which is very like Giro 1 coded. And then because Peak repeatedly transforms, she's the only character other than Dark Deku that I think can really utilize First Wielder, which is a really cool card that lets you re-ready foundations. And I think when you have the setup of you've drawn an attack that turns itself into a backup or generates a backup, you've transformed with her own ability to get an asset from your deck for free. You now have assembled all 4 colors, and you can just United Front, look at your cards, pick one you want, make your good check, and then First Wielder readies it, and you can just do that like multiple times. And I think that's like a really cool, like, combo is kind of oversimplifying. It's a really cool like assembly line that you create to sort of dictate how your turn goes. And I feel like you have a lot of control over what's going on. And I'm not entirely sure what that deck will look like, the entire deck list, but I think it seems like there are a lot of unique things you can do with this character that very few other characters can do because of how easily you can access all the different colors. Because you get an asset for free, because you are on specifically Death Order, you're the only one reasonably who can play Ambition of Irwin Smith other than Irwin 1. So you're getting extra card draw there. Because your Order and Death Attuned you have, and because I guess it is literally her card. What's the card called? This one is really good. I need to find the name of it. It's the
the 1/5.
Yes, this card is really good. And again, like unusual behavior. Haha, Order symbol has no playable 1-diffs at all, other than your hyper specific, like in archetype ones. You get to play this hyper specific in archetype 1 because you're getting an asset from your deck at all times. This is always live. So you probably main symboling death on this, but I guess you don't have to. Like Order has good cards too. So this is definitely the character I'm looking forward to most, I think. I think it's really cool. And then Armin is cool too, but I think Peak is going to be the one I built first.
Peak is nuts. Very excited for that
The
character.
peak alt art also looks.
Oh, the peak alt art's also really cool.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
had
think
not.
you're gonna have a lot of fun doing the like -4 speed on the backside over and over with shrewd observations, block with showdown. Like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
that's right up your alley.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think as far as like we talked about it earlier, it's kind of like lame duck for like Albuquerque specifically, but there's like a lot of like interesting and cool stuff going forward, and like we are excited for like stuff moving forward. And another thing moving forward that is like pretty interesting coming up the week after Albuquerque is the new Universal format, like the first tournament that they're doing for that. They
I'm
have
excited.
yeah, they've gone back and they've made it functionally like actual early days of Pioneer where there's just no ban list. So go out and be as degenerate as you can in the first tournament and show people why your favorite pet card that didn't exist for more than a week and a half or for more than like a format should not exist. Show people what you would do if you were willing to spend $50 on a card legal in 0 other formats and wanted to buy a combat Ash. You know, get out there and break some stuff. And as far as like people who build the decks constantly just for fun, I'm excited to see what Wub and Travis come up with.
they are doing their best to have me just sandbag Albuquerque completely because I'm totally distracted. But between this and Attack on Titan 3, I have so many cool ideas and not enough time. And I should be thinking about my tournament, and I just can't. Like,
Yes. I feel that so much.
yeah.
Yeah, the I think you were like, hey, go build Shadow Slicer Jiro today, and I was like, this is surface level. There's so much here. There's just like a
Oh,
bunch of like other like insane random like
I
shit
was,
that I
Yes.
could be
yeah.
doing in Universal.
I was getting so distracted because, like, I did not. Okay, so some context. I tend to search Ultra without checking the box to make sure things are retro legal. So as I did, I made a retro deck with Unwavering Slash, not knowing it was banned. This is probably like a year and that, probably about a year ago, Mitch, or so.
Yeah, I
I
want to
sat
say
down
a
and I
year
was
ago.
busy infiniting you when Nate hopped in call and was like, "Hey, that card's banned." And I've just been thinking about that card ever since. And
I
finally,
love
that
that
gear in
card
my
so
brain
much.
has turned, and I can,
We're
for one
back.
day, I
Yeah.
may play this card one more time.
All crime is
Um,
legal. Yeah.
this is the purge of universes, yeah.
Oh my god.
But then, yes, there's Combat Ash in the corner being like, "Don't you want to detonate their board? Like,
Yeah.
come over here.
Hey
You
kids,
can
do you
do
like
that."
Armageddon? Yeah.
Yeah.
All I know is my
So,
Jiro one deck is gonna play You Can't Catch Me, and
Yes.
hopefully have more stats than anyone's ever seen in their life at the end of my string. It's a
Oh.
it's a 3-diff charge weapon. Blitz. This gets a 1 speed for each other weapon attack in your card pool. So under the assumption every attack in my deck is a charge
Oh
weapon,
God.
and I'm
Yeah.
playing this is gonna be a 12 for
Die,
20. Yeah,
die,
like I don't know,
die.
man.
Yeah.
Like
Is
this
one
is
of those
again
small
probably I'm sure
cards
there
that
are
just
better
no
things
one
I
has
can be
looked at?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure there are better things that I can be doing, but obviously yes, no one has ever looked at no one has ever searched charge weapon cards released after Dark Tournament, like because
Yeah,
there's been no
right.
need.
Why would you?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah, it'll feel good.
I'm excited to see because like this is the fun part too of like people going, oh dude, I finally get to show everyone like X, Y, or Z, where it's like, oh dude, I finally get to play like when with like all of these things, or like I finally get to do like this with all of these things, or like it's a more it's a somewhat more palatable way to get people to like consider a format with older cards because theoretically every card with the blue borders it's blue border printing or the retro version of it should not be as much as like trying to find any UR from King of Fighters or like Neomax or whatever. Like it is diet retro, but also since the first event is like no ban list, it's functionally at or above retro power level for very specific cards. And everyone just gets to be like, dude, I remember this card. Like, you could just play Asui 1 with like all of the banned Asui 1 cards and whatever other bullshit you can find. Like,
Yeah. I gotta
if
play
you've been
Cowboy
around,
Andy.
yes, yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say you could fuck around and play Andy. Like,
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, because it was funny because Andrew was like, "Oh, Kirishima 2 still rotted." I'm like, "Andy's right there." Like,
yeah, there he is.
He's
Yeah.
literally
he's
it.
prime for the taking.
Yeah, look, you could just play
Dude,
the original. Why would you need a copy? Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that like something that's really cool about this is like this is like a reminder of how fun it is to sometimes to have things unbanned because we look back at things that have been hit in like the game's past. Like before Back Alley rotated, I think there was a period where you probably could have got away with it being legal for a little while.
Oh, for
Just like
sure,
as
for
an
sure.
example.
Yeah, for sure.
And like
In fact, it's legal
the
now. No one plays
excitement
it.
and yes, yeah. But like just like the potential excitement of being like, oh yeah, these cards I have that I haven't been able to touch for a year, I actually can use them, and this changes all these things that I haven't even considered over that period. And it's like there's a lot of potential for like if they were to go back and sort of revisit the ban list from time to time. I think there's cool things that they could go, maybe this changes a little. Obviously it gets messy with like they tend to errata a lot right now. So if they were to change erratas, that becomes like, oh, I don't
That
even know what the
becomes
card does
yeah.
anymore. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's weird because like there have not been many cards that have like up until I guess recently, like within the past like year, there have not been many cards that have survived an errata. Like some like I think specifically like Porad is playing Smiling Titan post errata, and that's like still character still
Justin
good.
Birch, but yeah.
Or Justin Birch rather. But like the what is it called? Disarming Glance or Glare. That card's probably
Yeah.
still fine post errata. It's just not Droll and Lockbird anymore.
It does what it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Right?
it does what it was supposed to do, and like that
Yeah.
was just a good effect regularly. But like I guess similarly, uh, there has not been a card unbanned since My Hero 1. So like I don't know, that could be something interesting to look at, and that is the premise of this
Yeah.
and like the cornerstone of this, right?
I mean, I say that with the caveat that like the recently banned cards, I don't think I want Immortal Shapeshifter or Risky Encounter back anytime
No,
soon. Like those can
yeah,
stay
Oh,
gone. But
Correct.
risky.
Oh,
Yeah, risky encounter. I
absolutely.
think is that one's. That one can.
like there is a world where without VME you could like un-errata Ryukyu for the last like half year
Oh,
of her
I didn't even
lifespan.
think about that. I would not hate Ryukyu being unerrata because like that is. I guess that's a consideration that we didn't really touch on with VME. Is just like how many characters have had to die because of VME or like had to get errata. You know, like
yeah.
VME getting banned. I don't think you need to unerrata Mimic. Like I think Mimic is still
No.
extremely extremely good without VME, but obviously he used that tool very very well. Ryukyu, I agree. You could almost certainly just
It
unerrata
is yeah.
Ryukyu.
Yeah.
Actually,
Ryukyu is
100%.
yeah,
interesting because Ryukyu killed Capture Evildoers
yes,
and VME killed Ryukyu.
yes,
And
and
then
now
VME
VME is
died for someone
dead.
else, and now maybe Ryukyu can come back
Just
because Capture
cannibalizing one
Evildoers is
another. Yeah.
gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know if
Interesting.
maybe.
I don't know if I'm ready to make a call on something like Younger, but I do think without Mop Strike and no twisting, like it
Yeah.
would be a different deck for sure.
I
Yeah.
I
think
don't
he's
know if it would
fine.
be.
I think
I
he's fine
Yeah,
genuinely
too.
think he'd be
I think
okay.
yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna say I think pre-errata Younger would be fine right now.
I think the fact that VME is
It's
banned is maybe he's good, but when VME was legal, you could not enter a tournament with Younger. Like that would not be a
no, it
viable
was
deck in
laughable. Yeah.
any regard.
Yep.
Yes. Commit a foundation. Your opponent spends one momentum. Is the text
Yeah.
on the character.
Yippee!
Your opponent spends one momentum, and if your opponent is Mitchell Cimino, you just explode the next
Yeah,
turn.
they get it back.
You pop.
Hooray.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like a lot of exciting stuff to look at moving forward. Another
That's
exciting thing moving forward,
exactly one
theoretically.
day after Albuquerque.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
literally. You get home, you land, you're just like, okay, crack knuckles and lock in. Here we go. Load up TTS, everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but oh yeah, that's I guess the other thing we didn't talk about is this tournament is happening on TTS, so like you don't have to buy these cards that might wind up getting banned again
Yeah,
because
go sign
you
up.
can just play online. Yeah, go sign up,
Absolutely. Yeah.
support this event. It's sick. But
Please
a
do.
lot of interesting stuff moving forward. Theoretically, by next episode, I will have a logo up for us. Um, and then I guess any other things moving forward that anyone wants to shout out besides Rob has, I think, for the rest of the month of May on. I don't know if it's every stream, but Wednesday specifically, I know he's doing Universes content on his stream over at Tito's Tabletop for St. Jude's Play Live event in May. So definitely go check that out. Donate if you can, but definitely just come by and support, get some eyeballs on it.
Just watch him sweat as he eats spicy jelly beans.
Yes.
We will hopefully be raising the amount needed for him to just die on
He does
stream.
not have to
Jelly
eat the
beans.
whole bag. Yeah,
'Cause that was
crazy.
heinous. Yeah, that was heinous. I did not realize how much he was going to suffer.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely look forward to that. And then I know, like, knock on wood, post Albuquerque on my channel, maybe the MGLA channel, as well as others. There will be deck profiles from the event, so you can look at the best decks in a format that doesn't exist, and we can
Oh
continue to
yeah.
be content
I didn't
creators.
even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I mean, I'm
Anyway,
sure
Uh,
regardless of how I do, I'm sure I'll talk about what I was thinking going to the event and everything. And here's why
Yeah,
you
for
shouldn't play
sure.
this deck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Here's what would have happened to me if there were AOT 3 cards legal, or like
Yeah.
moving forward. Here's why I can't play this deck anymore. But I think that's probably going to be all from us on Werewub episode 2. Thanks everybody for watching. We're gonna have this up on the MGLA channel weekly or bi-weekly rather. Excuse me. Is the current goal. A lot of us travel and are busy and do other stuff, so it might not be exactly that consistency. But for now, we're doing good. And they say what, like 7 in a row makes a pattern or something like that. So we'll figure out if we can actually make it that far that consistently.